Namaste everyone. On behalf of Bhogya.online, I'm very happy to welcome you all to our third webinar, the Swasthi Shri webinars. And the topic for today is the Indian knowledge systems. I'm so happy that we have so many people joining us today in spite of being the holiday season. And before we jump into the topic, I would like to briefly introduce myself, Bhogya.online, the reason for the start of this webinar series, this Swasthi Shri webinar series, and also a little bit about the topic. About myself, my name is Malathi. I'm the founder of Bhogya.online, a platform which is community driven, and it's a socio-cultural platform. By community driven, I mean it is for the community, by the community. And the idea for Bhogya was conceived about 3.5 years back, but the platform itself was launched about 2 years back. And this is with the encouragement of a lot of supporters, including family and friends. The idea for Bhogya.online is primarily to, in a very broad sense, I would say it is to leave behind a place which is more sustainable and more lovable for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. How we do it? Sustainability does not actually come with, some cosmetic lifestyle changes. It's to do it. One has to get a little bit deeper into it. I think, coming with the background of Sanatana Dharma, one has to address this at the grassroots level, meaning that our very thought needs to progress towards a life that is more sustainable and more lovable. So, with that idea in mind, I founded this platform, and through this platform, we provide experiences that matter to make this world more lovable and sustainable. And we do this by our 3-word culture: engage, enrich, and elevate. I probably have spoken about this, but nevertheless, I would like to look at it this way. Imagine a fragrantly flowering plant or a tree that gives delicious fruits. In order for one to see that, we need to first have the seeds. Plant them, water them, nourish them, so they can grow and yield what we want. Similarly, at Bhogya, we provide experiences that helps one to engage, enrich, and elevate for personal growth. So when you engage with us, you're provided with services that lay the seeds for the growth. And we offer a knowledge space that will be enriching, and then opportunities to elevate where one is ready to give back to the society. So this is very briefly about Bhogya and why we are all together today for the Swasthi Shri webinar. Everybody celebrates their anniversary in different ways, and I thought of doing this in a slightly different way. I said Bhogya is like 2 years now. And for the first anniversary, we had a campaign called Samarpanam, where we had artists from across Europe who participated in this series, which was called Gratitude to Grandparents. I believe in giving back to the society because it creates a lot of positivity or auspiciousness around us. And for this second anniversary, again, I wanted to join hands with the Indian community to discuss about various topics that are relevant to us as expats living outside of India. The topics for the webinar are all topics that came out through these conversations. And the basic idea being, as the name indicates, Swasthi, which means auspiciousness, and Shri is again another name for Goddess Mahalakshmi, and it also means as auspiciousness. So together it means well-being. Well-being can be seen from different perspectives. It can be physical, emotional, psychological, social, or spiritual. So we are going to be approaching well-being from all of these aspects. And one such aspect, or the foundation for Bhogya.online and for the Swasthi Shri webinar, is our topic for today, which is Indian knowledge systems. But there's one thing that's common for all the webinars that are going to happen, which are 12 in number, happening on the first Sunday of every month. So we are in the third month now, and it will continue until October, coinciding with India's 75th Independence Day celebrations, the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So coming from India, so this is for the expat Indian community. So it's all coming together. But the one thing, like I said, that is common for the Swasthi Shri webinar series is all about what's great and what needs to be changed. It's going to be addressing the various challenges faced by the expat Indians in Europe and finding solutions together. Now, our topic for the day is, like I said, it's the Indian knowledge systems. Now, India, which is Bharat, it has been a continuously living, thriving civilization for at least, maybe 10,000 years, if not longer. Now, its rise, progress, and survival as a civilization was made possible due to the constant quest or inquiry by the Rishis or the scholars to understand the truth and therefore gain the knowledge towards truth. India was a leading society not only in the fields of culture or politics, but also in science, technology, and commerce. Today it is called the STEM or the STEAM. Now, the vast body of knowledge that enabled this crowning achievement was accumulated over so many millennia by so many rishis, and it is hidden in multiple different sources, many of which are no longer accessible to the current generation. Now, unearthing this vast ocean of knowledge and making it accessible will serve humanity in many ways, not the least by instilling a sense of pride and confidence that we can attain greatness without having to look elsewhere for the seeds of greatness. Now, to talk about this, we have very experienced speakers who have done a lot of research individually and along with many other scholars. And I would like to invite them and introduce them. So we have two sets of speakers today. One, I would like to request them to turn on their videos. Just a minute.
Namaste.
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 Namaste. So, introducing Dr. D.K. Hari and Dr. Mrs. Hema Hari, a husband and wife duo. Dr. Hari is a management professional, or should I say was a management professional, and Mrs. Hema Hari was an IT professional. They are both founders of Bharath. And how they founded Bharath is also a very interesting story, which I happened to hear from them. And they are doing a civilizational study. They had launched a civilizational study initiative to compile and present the knowledge of India, its traditions, its culture, its global ties, in short, its ethos from an Indian perspective. For a very long time, we have read about India not from an Indian perspective. And I think it's now very, very essential that we learn about our dear country from our own perspective. It's very important. Now, like I said, they were management and IT professionals, and I had a very interesting conversation as to what brought them to start such an initiative. I also happened to know that they had also lived in the Switzerland and in Germany, very close to Frankfurt, where I live. It's a very interesting story. One day we should all hear about it. So with a collective experience of more than 20 plus or maybe 30 plus years, they had traveled all over the world. And Dr. Hari hails from a traditional Indian family with roots in Kanchipuram. And Hema, she comes from Mysore, which is also rooted in culture. And they both got married into a very traditional family, and they kind of, the entire family is engaged in community service in the field of healthcare, education, and culture. So they had traveled extensively and like to more than 30 countries, visited a lot of museums, expositions, and other attractions worldwide to understand those civilizations, their culture, and knowledge. Now, this is what had kind of triggered them to start this initiative of understanding the Indian civilization from an Indian perspective. So, I once again welcome Dr. Mrs. Hema Hari and Dr. D.K. Hari to talk to us about why the Indian knowledge system. I mean, what exactly is the Indian knowledge system? Why is it relevant today? And why is it relevant to the expat Indians in Europe, not just in Europe, I think all over the world? Over to you, ma'am and sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Malati, for inviting us to be part of this Bhogya.online program. It's a pleasure to meet so many new friends and a couple of old friends as well.
So, since Germany and Switzerland have been very special to us, we will start with greeting you all as Grüezi miteinander and Guten Tag, Damen und Herren. So, and just to complete that little bit of Malti Ji's story about how we started, Bharat Gyan as such was, kind of instituted as an idea in Wuppertal, very close to Düsseldorf, Köln in Germany. And so Germany and Switzerland will always be very special. And with that, we would like to get on with today's topic about Indian knowledge system and Indian civilizational studies, its relevance to, it's actually not just Indians. While we start with Indians and we give a Hindu perspective to the Indian civilization, which sadly has been missing from the global stage. It has more been a Western perspective of the Indian civilization. The Indians themselves, and that too, giving a Hindu perspective of all the traditions and practices and the knowledge system, has unfortunately not been spoken about very widely. And that is what we're trying to bring to the fore. And it has relevance not just for Indians, but world over, because like Maltiji just said, it is a civilization, it's a continuing civilization from more than 8,000, 9,000 years old. And therefore, what is the secret to this continuity? How has the civilization been able to stay continuous? What are its practices? And you will see, as we talk and as, in subsequent talks as well, how the civilization did not just survive, it was flourishing. It was rich and it was flourishing. So what was the secret to this continuous prosperity? And that is important for the world at large to know, especially in days where we are all seeking sustainable solutions. As we know, we are muddled in a number of problems arising out of our unsustainable practices.
Just a point of request, those who have the bandwidth, if you can keep your cameras on, it will be nice, because otherwise we'll just be talking to a palette of names. So it will be much nicer. It will enthuse us a lot more to speak to some real faces if we can. Of course, it's all online, but still those who can, those whose various aspects permit, please do. Thank you so much. Going on to the subject. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So we would like to just share our screen and bring about a few points and place them in front of you.
I hope all of you can see our screens. It's visible.
Yes. Okay. So what is the relevance of this civilization or this civilization? Malti ji,
Yes.
I think some sounds, maybe you may have to mute.
Yeah, I'll do a global mute.
Yeah. See, this is something that we
I think yours also got muted. Just a minute.
this is something that we see very commonly with Indian, especially youngsters. There is a sense of overall diffidence, and they enter into a room with people from multiple cultures. Their confidence flies away. They feel inferiority complex, and they are more attracted by others' lifestyles and various other value systems. And there is a sense of not being able to talk about what their own roots are, what does their culture stand for. And so fundamentally a lack of self-confidence is what one can commonly see amongst youth with Indian roots, whether they are in India or whether most of them are outside India as well. They are not able to stand up for themselves, their culture, their roots, especially in present day context where there is a lot of discussions going on media, social media. And if we largely look at it, this disconnect or this diffidence is coming because of their disconnect with their own roots, their understanding of their civilization, fundamentally peer pressure overall, because globally, the world is tending towards one standard global culture. Very sadly, because we are losing the diversity in the world, which is very essential for the world to sustain. And also, this civilization, the history of the civilization has been distorted. There is a cobweb of various myths in the minds of people in India and outside India about the civilization. So all this gives rise to a lack of awareness about one's own roots and oneself. And this grounding, lack of grounding, is perhaps what is leading to this lack of confidence too. So from this, where do we want to go? We want to go to a knowledgeable state where we can overcome all these disadvantages. And to do that, you have to understand the civilization in terms of its land. What did this advantage, what advantages did this land gain to therefore be sustainable, flourishing, and how did they manage all their resources? How, so if you've managed your resources well, that means you've had a knowledge of sciences as well, and you have put them to judicious applications. So what was that knowledge? What were those judicious practices? So all these various secrets is what we need to unlock today if you want to understand about this civilization.
This is precisely what we are doing in our various talks and courses, our books, our short films, all this. This is precisely what we have been doing, what she says. So we are not, while we are analyzing the issue, we are not bemoaning the issue. We are bringing out facts to counter and help the youth, the middle-aged, and also the elderly to utilize this knowledge in understanding themselves, their families, their values, their civilizations, and putting it forward across to their friends and families and people who are not of Indian origin as well.
See, because one thing, if you are sustainable, then you have had values. So it's important to understand what these values are. They're not just human values alone, but the values that you have held vis-a-vis everything around you. And very interestingly, this is a civilization which not only generated that prosperity, but has been celebrating that prosperity even to date. So like Malti ji just said, Shri is a beautiful word that denotes that kind of prosperity. And Shri is a very, very important word in this civilization. And it has a wealth of meaning behind this wealth.
Incidentally, we have written a book. We have written a 30-page booklet on the word Shri alone. It's available in our mini book section for those who want to read the meaning of the word Shri. Similarly, there's a full chapter in our book Brand Bharath on the word Swasthi. So that is also available for all of you to read. Please go ahead.
So it's only then that we will see this larger picture of the civilization, and we will have the knowledge to be able to discern the destabilizing forces, because there are plenty today in the clash between the ideas of a global world tending towards one uniform culture, and that too around economy and exploitation of resources. So this is a kind of culture that the world is tending to. And that is giving rise to a lot of destabilizing ideas and all of that. And so what can we gain from the study of this civilization to be able to stand firm? And also, how can we gain some resourcefulness to think laterally? Because as we start digging deeper and deeper into the practices of the civilization, you will find that whatever that this Indian civilization, we use the word Hindu civilization and Indian civilization a little bit interchangeably, because largely this civilization, the word Hindu actually encompasses a whole lot of
geography as well, geography, ethos, not just from a religious perspective, but also from a geographical perspective.
And so from that perspective, we use these two words interchangeably. And you will find that this Hindu civilization has practiced many things in a very lateral, very different manner. And it's a very lateral shift from what we think about many concepts today and how we practice lifestyle itself today. Now, I don't mean lifestyle as how we eat and sleep and live through the day, but how we practice industry, what are the ideas behind economy, polity, society. All of this, you find that there's a total shift between what we do today and what the civilization had been practicing for millennia successfully. So, and these ideas are important for people as they seek solutions in the present world today. So if you see, like he just said, it's more than just a religion, it's actually a continuum. And it's a continuum that spans across the geography, the history, the industry, the trade, because it's all of this. It's the geography that gave it its resources. It's the history that tells about all of this. It is the industry that gave rise to all that they could trade in, which gave them their prosperity.
When Hema says history, it's not limitedly understood as the medieval history that we are unfortunately taught in Indian schools. No. History is actually, it speaks about people, because it is not just that kings and kingdoms make history. They come briefly and go. Kings and kingdoms, if you look at an 8,000-year-long civilization, kings and kingdoms are very brief, 10, 20 years, 50 years, 30 years, like that. Whereas the civilization rolls along, irrespective whether there's a king or not, irrespective of the kingdom or not. So that is the larger perspective we should see the civilization in.
So how did they conduct their trade? What were the values, the value systems that helped them conduct their trade so successfully? And what were the skills? Because you cannot have trade without navigation to connect you with the other global civilizations. And how was the society organized? So all of this today, what we think of as religion are actually components that span across so many aspects of living. And therefore, how did we keep time? If you're living as a society, how did you keep time to do certain things in a particular manner? And therefore, how did you celebrate festivals? How did you learn about all this knowledge? How did you communicate within yourself with the outside other civilizations? And fundamentally, therefore, what is the ethos that threads all of them together? So this is what is the continuum, which is the what is known as Hinduism itself today, and therefore the Hindu civilization, aka the Indian civilization, as we look at it. And how do we know that? I mean, this is just one of the few things, the wow things that we wanted to bring out to you in today's very brief session. How do we know about all this?
So, for example, people normally say, oh, India does not have any historical records because it's all mythology. It's all only the later, only after the British came or of the Mughals came, we started having history. No. You know one thing, just as she said, one of the many points that we had in India traditionally, 8,000 years, we had 22 different varieties of historical record keeping. Can you believe it? We had 22 varieties of records of historical record keeping in this land. And they have come down to us till this century. Across centuries, across millennia, across the land, across generations, across languages. Like that, there are so many things. So when people say, oh, India did not keep record keeping, no, it's a myth. That means they don't know what they're talking about. So we're just highlighting one point. This obviously will be covering in our courses, about which we'll discuss a little later. So like that, there are varieties of ways we do. This is actually a wow factor from there on.
So a myriad different aspects in which you have to touch this civilization, look at these touch points and try to understand the civilization. That is when you will get a complete perspective of the secret to sustainability and prosperity.
Now she used the word myriad. You know that the word myriad actually has European Greek origins. It means the number 1,000. Okay, that's why it is M, because M also means 1,000 in Roman numerals. That's why you have the term myriad. And that was the highest number that was known as a name in Europe as recently as a few hundred years ago. Whereas in India, you had names for numbers, not just for 10 to the power of 3, which is myriad, 1,000, M. We had names, specific names for 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 13, 10 to the power of 22, 10 to the power of 54, going on like that. Everything, for example, Shankar Nidhi, Padma Nidhi and all that, 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 13, and all that we have. Adbhuta, each name, and all that we discuss in our different works so that we can bring out wonderful aspects, but these are needed for understanding mathematics better, appreciating mathematics, but not just understanding, appreciating maths.
So a study of this civilization actually is a stepping stone to sustained success, because what it's going to help you is it's going to help with scaling up one's soft skills fundamentally, so that we can become more relevant for future. And because future is all about sustainability, there's no sustainability, there is no future for us. So how do we develop that mindset and the skills to bring in sustainability into everything that we do, and also to have the confidence, dare, direction and distinction? Because confidence that what you are thinking about comes from a proven route which has had this success, which has maintained this success, and therefore you can dare to adopt it and you can take the direction from it, and you will be distinguished with the success that you will see when you try to bring in these kind of lateral ideas. Because it is this flourish that was the root for the search for India by the various colonial powers. In fact, all the colonial powers, if you see, colonization came about not by accident. Colonization came about through a purpose, and the purpose was to find India and no other land. Colonization of the world, India was the root for the colonization of the world.
The search was for India everywhere. They went to West, search for West Indies. They went to East, they went to Indonesia, everywhere. So it was India, West Indies, Red Indians, Indonesia, everywhere. Look at the East Indies. The world in the late 1400s was looking for India. Why were they looking? Why was Europe looking for India? That's the question. That's what we deal in one of our courses that we do. So that what prompted Europe in 1400s to look for India? Because Christopher Columbus, when he left, he did not know about the new world that was there. He went looking for India, and till the end of his life, he found India only, because he did not go to the mainland America. He went only up to West Indies.
So till the end of his life, he thought he was only in India.
He reached India. So it was an India-centric world till as recently as 400 years ago for Europe.
So why were they looking? And therefore, like the song, which is there in Sound of Music, then again an Austria-based film, the Swiss Alp films, there is a song, we must have done something good. So nothing comes from nothing and nothing ever can, right? So what was this something good that we had done to keep it lasting good for millennia? And that is what we need to understand today.
That's what we do in our courses in Bharath, in our books and films. That is what we bring out, all this, the good that we did.
And this is something that we need to understand for ourselves, because with every generation, we have to bring them back on the same page. Unfortunately, due to this colonization, a couple of generations before us, they were cut off from their roots, and they could not, because after the colonial powers left India, they were too busy trying to build back the civilization. So somehow this knowledge didn't get passed on sufficiently to us. So at least now, if we can try to understand, today we are a little comfortable and we have the time and wherewithal to be able to sit and focus on this aspect. So if we can collect back this knowledge, this appreciation, this understanding, and pass the baton on to generations below us, then that would really keep this knowledge and the idea going for generations to come. Because if you really see, as per reports world over, it is these kind of soft skills, the ability to think laterally, the ability to have a wider knowledge and appreciation of things, which is what is going to be needed. Because whatever is the core skill of your reading, math, arithmetic, everything can be taught in schools. But it is this kind of out of the box thinking and knowledge which is going to make anybody stand out and also contribute better to society with their ideas. So that is what is needed. And therefore, there is a lot of relevance to going through a study of this particular civilization. And fundamentally, we have been offering these ideas through our courses. And for instance, all the competency that that people need, they come from the trades, which come from character, which is a legacy that you inherit from your roots. And we do have a large legacy to leverage. And here we are trying to bridge this gap between the past and the future, the old and the young, ancient and modern, knowledge versus wisdom, and skill set versus mindset as well. So this is what is needed. And we've been doing a lot of courses presently with Hindu University of America, where we speak about these topics, especially bringing teens and parents together on a common platform to understand the civilization through a course called Exploring Hinduism, which looks at this as that continuum that we just showed you, and looking at the various contributions to the world in the realm of matter and also in the realm of mind.
It's not only important to bring in teens and parents together, but it's also equally important to bring in grandparents. Because what we see in most of the courses we do is there are grandparents and grandchildren coming who are staying across 2 continents, joining this course and getting to talk among themselves later. So this is creating a platform, because otherwise the points to talk between grandparents and grandchildren today is reducing. This helps people because the grandparents have information to say about the civilization. The grandchildren want to know, while the parents are busy with their professional careers and their professional lives. So grandchildren are eager to learn. So this is a connecting point, which is what our civilizations were doing earlier. And that is what we're missing out. So today in the online era, this is back possible once again, even when the grandchildren and grandparents are living across continents, eminently possible across time zones. So this brings them back both together. So that's the beauty of what we are trying to do. And here.
So the other course is about exploring the contributions that we have actually made to the world, which is why the colonial powers were seeking to come to India. So what were these contributions? And if you look at it, you can broadly divide them as those that have been in the realm of matter. So material contributions that we have made to the world, which has actually shaped the world to be the way it is today. So today, a lot of things that we do are unknowingly, many things that we can trace the roots back to what our civilization has contributed, and also in the realm of mind. And again, to go deeper into this, we look at it as part A, where we speak about the actual contributions. There are 5 major contributions in the field of metallurgy, in the field of textiles, in the field of dyes, then in the field of sugar and spices. So there are fundamentally 5 major ones, just like you have the African big
Safari.
5.
African safari, a big five like that. India has contributed to the economy of the world in the big five. Similarly, there have been game-changing aspects which have over the last millennia changed the way the world has progressed, thought, and lived. So those are the game changers. This is something that we'll be offering starting January 15th. So that is something we're going to do. Then post that we'll be doing about Hindu contribution in the realm of mind. That will come a couple of quarters later. But what is coming up now in the next 2 weeks is this one, the game changer, that is Hindu contribution in the realm of matter, about which Mrs. Malti will speak to you about.
So here actually what we're going to look at is the secrets, like we told you. What is it that enabled this civilization to produce all these, like we call the big 5, and to trade and to earn the prosperity? So what were the game-changing factors for this civilization? And what have been the game-changing factors for the world at large because of these contributions, and how did they change the world to be what it is? So this is what we're going to look at.
For more information on this, all of you can visit the Bharath.online website, where you get a host of information on all the subjects, which will show you as part of the when you take the question answers, we'll show it to you as well. Okay. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to make this brief presentation. If there are any questions on the subject, we'll be glad to take them and discuss this further with you. We are available with you for as much time as you want to discuss this. Over to you, Mr. Malti. I think there are a couple of hands up. We'll be glad to take questions now or later. Choice is yours as moderator.
Yeah. I mean, the questions can come at the end, sir. I think that's how we always have formatted it. So we'll have the other speaker now. So that was a very lovely presentation by the two of you. Absolutely enjoyed. There's so much of information available. There's so much of knowledge available. One just needs to start digging. So the more we dig, the more character traits we build on, which is part of our legacy. And that's what makes us strong, because we go back to our roots, and the roots, if they are strong and healthy, will kind of keep the person healthy and therefore sustainable. So we are in alignment here, and I'm very happy that Bhogya is also offering the courses conducted by Bharath. You can, I have given the link to the course that they are beginning in the month of January. That is the current month. It's starting from the 15th of January. The link to the course I have given on the chat window. You can visit that, and all the information is available, and you can also register. So we have tied up with the Hindu University of America to bring some select courses to our land, which is Europe. So with that, I would like to invite our next guest, Dr. Vijayendra Munakoti. So Dr. Munakoti, he's a mechanical engineer from India, and he's been living in Berlin, Germany for a very long time. He got his doctorate from TU Berlin from the Material Sciences Department. He's an engineer at the Federal Institute for Material Research and Testing. He's been there for the last 15 years. And he has also worked as the research and development engineer at the GE Power. And socially or culturally speaking, he's the president of one of Germany's cultural associations, a socio-cultural philanthropic association, which is called the Berlin Kannada Balaga, based out of Berlin. He gives a lot of talks on Sanatana Dharma at schools in and around Berlin for the higher grade students, like the 11th and 12th grade students. And in general, he's kind of encouraging the local diaspora, the local Indian diaspora, in preserving our rituals, our traditions. He also performs some of the rituals for a few people there. He not only performs them, he kind of explains the significance behind these rituals, and also tells them why it is important to perform these kinds of rituals. So in essence, he's one practitioner of some of the knowledge systems that we saw now, and I'm very happy to invite him today to speak to us about a little bit again about the Indian knowledge systems and its relevance, but more importantly, how he has benefited by being a practitioner of the Indian rituals and traditions. Over to you, Dr. Monakutti.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mahanti Krishnaswamy, for giving me an opportunity to talk to you about today's topic. First of all, Gurubhyo Namaha, Sarvebhyo Namaha. Again, good evening to all of you. Before I start, I should once again thank Mrs. Mahanti Krishnaswamy for talking to me about this subject, and she wanted to listen to me about my own experience on this subject. I would like to share a very small presentation. You have already heard from Mrs. Dr. Hari and Mr. Dr. Hari, and mine, whatever I say, is going to be just a small subset of whatever they have presented. So I will just share my presentation. So to start with, I would like to, define Sanatana Dharma as I found in Sri Aurobindo's The Renaissance in India. Although all of you can read it yourself, I would like to just read it myself. Indian religion cannot be described by any of the definitions known to the Occidental intelligence. In its totality, it has been a free and tolerant synthesis of all spiritual worship and experience. Observing the one truth from all its many sides, it shut out none. It gave itself no specific name and bound itself by no limiting distinction, allowing separative designations for its constituting cults and divisions. It remained itself nameless, formless, universal, infinite, like the Brahman of its age-long seeking. Although strikingly distinguished from other creeds by its traditional scriptures, cults, and symbols, it is not in its essential character a creedal religion at all, but a vast and many-sided and always unifying and always progressive and self-enlarging system of spiritual culture. Well, this is how Sri Aurobindo has defined, and especially that sentence, like it is always progressive and self-enlarging system, appealed to me very much, and that's why I wanted to share this definition with all of you. As far as I am concerned, my childhood days, I have been interested very much in Adhyatma, Yoga, and Upanishads, and several other ritualistic practices. Well, as long as I was in India, it was to me self-evident that I was practicing all those things because I was raised in that environment. Due to professional reasons, I'm here in Germany, as Mrs. Malati said, since quite a number of years. And in Indian context, we are surrounded by a system which propels one to follow one's traditions or sampradayas. There are elders all the time advising us to follow them, and there are also teachers who encourage us to follow them. But once you come out of that environment, when I came to Germany, for example, um, the decision to get connected to that system or get totally disconnected to that system will be an individual's choice. I have seen myself, many people drifting away from these traditions. I think Mrs. Dr. Hari was mentioning that you start adopting new value systems and you start maybe getting influenced by the local environment. And once that happens, I think, according to me, one would lose the Sanskritic identity. And it is why it is important and why we have to have that kind of a continuity. I'm going to just narrate in a very brief way based on some of the experiences which I have had in the past so many years. As I said, this was one question which was haunting me. Once you are out of India, how I would be able to continue all those things, because suddenly you are all alone, and there is no peer pressure at all. I think Mrs. Dr. Hari also was mentioning about that. There is no peer pressure, and I can choose to get disconnected, and I'd say it is fanciful to follow something else. But I'm afraid that that would lead to the loss of Sanskritic identity. And that's why I chose to give a title, The Necessity of Preserving Sanatana Dharma and Indian knowledge systems in foreign environment. Although I am always talking about my own experience, and when I say I'm sure there are many people who are in a similar position like what I am, and probably they also would agree to some of the thoughts which I'm going to present it now. So the one question, as I said, how do I preserve my own identity? And I was listening to one of the discourses on Bhagavad Gita, and then the very first shloka, all of you would be knowing for sure, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava. And it seems that the narrator was, telling me that one guru was teaching a queen in central part of India. And the moment she heard this very first sentence, incidentally, this is the only book, Bhagavad Gita, where the very first word, the very first chapter starts with dharma. There are no other scriptures which starts with the word dharma. Okay, and as soon as she heard that first sentence, she stopped the teacher and said, I have understood the complete essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And the guru was surprised. I have not even started yet, and already you are saying that you understood. What is it that you understood? So she understood it this way. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre, she understood it as Kshetre Kshetre Dharmam Guru. Wherever you are, you just follow that dharma, and that is the way it is. So that immediately struck me, and I said, okay, wherever I am, I can follow, independent of my geographical situation. So based on some experiences, some of the thoughts are as follows. I was learning Upanishads from one guru many years back. The guru's name, Veda Brahma, Dr. Subraya Sharma. He lives in Bangalore, and I used to go to him and learn Upanishad. And I one fine day I went to him, and then he asked me whether I have read Bhagavad Gita in full. I said yes. And that happened to be a Gita Jayanti day in December. And then he said, you reread Bhagavad Gita again. And by the time you come next time to Bangalore, you should have finished the whole book. I said, okay. I read it. And then when I came back, I, like a student would, show the homework. I said, yes, I have completed. For which he said, it is very good, but there are some more things which I need to tell you. But during that conversation, I also said, why don't you come to my place and then maybe I can organize for some lectures. He did come to Berlin and he was staying with me for some time. I did organize for a lecture in Leipzig University in Indology department. So there, this particular incident happened. You all must be knowing one of the famous shlokas, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. I won't completely recite. So it says the all four varnas are created by me, and so on. Some of the students there in the Indology departments, not necessarily Indians, but also others, they said that Krishna was responsible for creating this kind of a social inequality and things like that. My teacher was there. I was a bit stunned because when he asked me to reread Bhagavad Gita, I had read this shloka also. I understood it, at least I thought, but I never knew that one could also see from a different angle. Correct or incorrect, we can always discuss. But then my teacher did explain to the students in a convincing way, because he had that knowledge system, which is very much required to read and understand any of the Indian scriptures, in my opinion. But then after the thing, he came back to me and said, now do you see that how many different people can see or understand with so many different angles? So whatever you have learned, it is your duty to give it to other people in the right way. If they have done mistakes, you have to say, and just keeping it to yourself will not propagate the correct knowledge. So since then, I thought, okay, that is one good advice from my guru. And then I started advising people to read the Bhagavad Gita. And many people said, well, we are not that old to read such scriptures because I'm young and I'm working and things like that. Why do I need such scriptures? In fact, this is where we need to do more, probably. And as I have written here, some of the factors influencing the individual identity. We interact with the society, we assimilate the local values, cultures, traditions in foreign environment. There is nothing wrong about it. But one thing is, we also have to understand our own identity and maintain it. This is my my view. And in addition to that, we have enough of social media all the time, giving some prejudiced, partial, misinterpreted, intentional or unintentional information. We have to be very cautious about that. So then to that question, which many people said about Bhagavad Gita, they said, this is I'm not interested in moksha as of today. And that's why I chose to tell them, there is a beautiful book by Dr. T.V. Gundappa. He was the Nobel poet, according to me, our poet saint, who was born, brought up in Bangalore, and many people who are from that region, they would have certainly learned or read about Dr. Gundappa, or DVG, he was fondly called. He has written one Bhagavad Gita called Jivana Dharma Yoga. He said that means how to live. It is not that all the people have to be seeking moksha or the enlightenment or something, but how to live uh, in a very useful way, useful to the society. And that's why I would always recommend the younger people to read his interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, which he has called it as Jivana Dharma Yoga. That I wanted to mention it to you. As Mrs. Malati was talking to you about my experience with teaching to German students in 11th, 12th standard, I should at this point say that I was a bit happy and disappointed at the same time. Disappointed in the sense we ourselves in our schooling system have never learned the religion or ethics in such a serious way as the German boys and girls are learning today in schools. Somebody did approach me and they asked me whether I would be interested in teaching them. It is not throughout the year or something like that. There were some, dates foreseen in 1 year, and they have to attend all the classes, and there will be an exam based on that. So earlier, it seems one German teacher would teach all the, religions, but after that, they switched over to a system where people from the respective religion would come and then teach the students in order to assure more authenticity. That's how I went, and I was teaching 11th and 12th standard kids. But what do you teach? Can you talk about, Upanishadic aspects? It's too complicated for them. You have to just introduce to them about what is Sanatana Dharma and how it is different from other religions. It is not that I am saying which is good, which is not good, but I am saying what is the difference between these religions. So I did show this particular, because they were of the opinion there is one religion and one book, and somebody is saying you do this and that's it. Whereas here you have a huge system of scriptures where in one's lifetime you will not be able to read all of them and understand. So this would give them a glimpse of how vast the scripture systems are. So after that, yes, as I said, you have to make something interesting. It is not only relevant to the German students, but I think as a whole, whatever we know about our scriptures and whatever we learn, it should be understandable to even common man. The more complex it is, we'll be scaring them away from that system. So there should be, I think, we are living in a time where people are asking the right questions, and we should be in a position to answer them correctly in a logical way and understandable way. The moment we make it more complicated, probably people would avoid, or they would want to get disconnected from that. Here, I was teaching the students about this, and then I said, okay, let me take something which they will be able to understand. So I took, for example, one mathematical concept. Okay, and this was created by no other than Bhogya. I have written the date also, 800 BC, 740 BC. And this did not come while doing some mathematical research. The job was this to find out the area of this Tretagni. There are some people who are, who have Agni at home. And the job was to make sure that the areas of them are all equal. So automatically one factor is to be considered. How did this great man develop that? So his statement was very simple. Chaturadhikam shatamashta gunam dveshashtistata sahasrana ayutadvaya vishkambasyasanno vritta parinaha. It's a beautiful sentence, it sounds like a poem to me. But if you translate it, chatura adhikam shatam, four more than shatam, 100, 104 times 8, ashtagunam, etc. All those things, if you translate, you would get one factor. And it is nothing but, it is nothing but the value of pi, as you all know. How he got 62,000 and 20,000, well, that is something which we'll have to understand, because it is quite a tricky thing. But he did arrive at such an accurate number. Then the thing is, the Bhogya.online have we cited any time in any of our schooling days or something like that? Have we have learned about pi, certainly in most fundamental classes, but has anyone told us, look, although we are giving the symbol and it was developed by so and so, it was the concept was given by so and so, have we any time taken time to cite this great saint? I don't think so. Whereas we are living in a modern age where if you do not cite properly in any of your research work or something like that, you would be stripped of your title. You know that the German minister who lost his doctorate title merely because he had not cited properly. But we here take it for granted, and so we don't even cite Bauta, and although these concepts are so old and so great. And as I said, he was not developing this because of mathematics alone, but with respect to our spiritual or ritualistic practices. So it is all bound, that Sanatana Dharma, that's the reason I chose to call it as a way of life, because it is inclusive. It includes everything. The kids were quite surprised that all people already knew pi and all those things, because that is a level which they can understand. And then we have one more famous concept in mathematics, the Pythagoras theorem. It is just the same. And for those who are already who know about it is fine, but those who do not know about this, please try to solve this problem. You can do it a mental math, and within no time you get that Pythagoras theorem, which I have showed you. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. It is called Shulba Sutras, and he has described beautifully all these things. It is a fantastic thing. I mean, I'm talking of just fundamental aspects I told the students, but there are more and more complex systems which okay, then I will go fast. I think we have less of time, and then I'll come back to the other aspect, like we considered mathematics, and now I'm talking of the Ayurvedic concept, where it is not just a scripture talking about some our gods and goddesses and all. No, in Atharvaveda, this particular stanza stands for Yatra Shvattha Nyagrodha Mahavruksha Shikandina. These are all names of the trees from which you can extract medicine to fight the viral fevers and all those things. And then there's also a beautiful description about several types of viruses. So this can be one formula for maybe corona, you see. So this also I told in the class, which they found it very interesting. And power of thought, what is happening today by means of this also a stanza from Bhagavad Gita, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. I won't read completely because of lack of time. Nevertheless, it just says the 8 ways by which you can destroy yourself if you have too many negative thoughts. Each thought feeds itself and grows, and it can lead to destruction. And that is what we have been seeing in reality also regarding all the terroristic, uh, attacks and things like that. And then the last one is, itite jnanamakhyatam, this stanza very well. He says, I have told you whatever the secrets that is possible. Bhogya taram maya. But ultimately he says, yatechasi tatha kuru, you do whatever you want. That is a beautiful stanza which gives you so much of freedom in your thinking and all those things. So with that, I would like to just close and then thank all of you for listening to me so long. And I thank Mrs. Malati Krishna Swami once again, and also thankful to Mrs. Dr. Hari and Mr. Dr. Hari also. Thank you very much. Over to you, Malati.
Thank you, Dr. Munakoti. That was it was a very nice presentation about various aspects from our scriptures that adds a lot of value, not just for the individual, but about the various ways in which we can contribute positively to the society. I found that really very interesting. And we have also a very lovely comment from one of the participants that she's very happy to know that you have taken forward these concepts to teach higher grade students in schools during the ethics and religion class. She's really very happy about it. I'm so grateful to have had such wonderful speakers today. While we still have a lot of participants actively listening, I would like to introduce to them the webinar that's going to happen in the next month, that is in the first Sunday of February. So that's going to be another, it could be interesting for parents with young kids. And these are kids that are not, normal is not the word that I'm looking for, but these are very differently abled children that we talk about. So this is again a challenge that I have seen some of my friends face. I would like to say that in all the topics that we have chosen for the Swasthi Shri webinar series are all topics that I have come across in my life of 15, 16 years of, 17 years of having lived in Germany. So each of these topics are very close to my heart, and some of them are disturbing, some of them are very essential. And I feel that discussing or talking about how to bring up differently able children as an expat Indian or as an expat in a country where language is a challenge in the first place and the systems are also a challenge, how do you wade your way through is something that I think every parent who has such differently abled children should know. So we're going to be having one mother who has fought this battle very successfully, and another doctor, a pediatrician turned psychologist who will be addressing this webinar. I request you all to sign up on Bhogya.online. The information would come up in a couple of weeks, and you can sign up for this webinar and join the experts live to get your questions answered on this topic. I mean, if not for you, it could also be useful for those of you who have friends who have such kids. It's very important, and it's even more important to address this topic today because I hear a lot of parents say that children, many of them are, if not fully autistic, slightly dyslexic. There seems to be a different levels of autism or different levels of dyslexia. These are very minor problems, as I would like to say, if we are talking about differently abled children. And this topic needs to be addressed, especially now that we are talking about mental health matters. These are some of the topics that are very, very relevant, very important for the future of our children. So please register. We need your support, we need your encouragement, we need your motivation to take this forward. Swasthi Shri webinars are free for everyone to attend. With this, I would like to open the session for the question and answers. If any of you is comfortable turning on their videos, they can turn on the videos and ask their questions to either of the speakers here. And if you're not comfortable turning on your videos, of course, all of you, depending on your bandwidth, like Dr. Hari mentioned, you can turn on your videos and ask your questions. If you're not comfortable doing that, we understand. You could type in your questions on the chat window and we can take it up. The floor is open for question and answers now. I see a hand has been raised. 2 hands have raised. So, yeah, Varsha?
Hi. Thank you to all three speakers for this, for your amazing talks. It was actually quite eye-opening in different ways for me because I grew up in Germany and India. I have 2 questions, one addressed to Dr. Hari and Dr. Hema Hari, and one addressed, of course, to us, the second speaker, Mr. Vijendra Munikoti. My first question is addressed to the 2 doctor speakers. There's a lot of, there's a lot of knowledge clearly throughout the millennia that we obviously have in our civilization, but throughout the years and especially after the invasions, many of them have been kind of lost or scattered, as I repeatedly keep encountering. So when you give such courses, how do you wade through the authentic or the reliable sources of knowledge, and how do you discard the ones are biased or which deliberately seek to present our civilization in, let's say, not the best light or not in the most Indic-centric perspective?
Well, thank you, Varsha, for that beautiful question. Fundamentally, we have, first, we would like to welcome you to the course so that you can experience it firsthand to see the actual compilation. Today, we just walked you through why this is relevant, but not really the actual topics. Because like you said, I mean, it's a vast ocean. And what we have done in Bharat, we said, we are trying to bridge. So one, we have taken information from various sources. One are texts, authentic texts in traditional languages, Sanskrit and local languages. We have run them through scholars for their interpretations as well, match it with local traditions and practices, and also match it with what civilizational history shows us and how it confirms all these aspects. Like he spoke so beautifully about pi, right? And now you have a parallel discourse which traces the travel of the pi. If you read the Jesuit history, you will see how the knowledge of the pi has traveled all the way from India, especially Kerala schools, to Europe and then beyond. So all of this together gives you a very comprehensive view to understanding this particular knowledge base. The other thing is also the meaning. Like for instance, your very word, your very name, Varsha, right? Now we know Varsha is rain, but Varsha is also the word used for a year. Every year is Varsha, right? And Varsha is also the word, a suffix that is attached to a country, especially ours, like Bharath Varsha. So why do you have Varsha in so many different contexts? How do you tie them up? And that is where I'll show you something in this Maltiji. I would like to share my screen. I will just show you first where our Bharat Gyan website is. So this is our Bharath.online website. I hope you can all see our screen. And here, if you go down, you have all the books that we have written. We have to date published about over 100 books, and we call them the Autobiography of India compilation. And we have various series like Brand Bharath, which talks about the things that have gone from here, breaking the myths and so on. I'll let you all browse through it at your leisure. And there is also this section, which is the film section. And you click on that, you get to playlists. Now, when you come to this playlist, for instance, just about your own name, Varsha, there is one playlist which is Bharath, that is India here. There are about, most of these are just under 3-minute short films. And there is one which talks about why does this land have two names? How did these names originate? The extent of this. All of these are being taken from the various scriptures. So here you have Varsha, Varsha, Varsha. Why does this land have three names? And we'll be happy to just play it for you for a few minutes.
It's just a 2-minute film.
Have you ever wondered why we call our land as Bharatavarsha? We call rain as Varsha. We call a year also as Varsha. What is the connect between these three Varsha?
In this whole world, after the Amazon forests, the one single landmass that gets the highest rainfall consistently year after year is Bharat Varsha, which is India. The onset of monsoon rains, Varsha, which came the same time every year, marked a year for the farmers in the agrarian society of Bharat. Hence, Varsha also came to denote the concept of a year.
Thus, we see a distinct connection between rain, year and land. Rain is Varsha, year is also Varsha. The land over which this rain Varsha rained prosperity year on year is also Bharat Varsha.
So, fundamentally, I mean, there are a lot of these kind of films for you to watch.
We have over 400 such short films we made. You mention the name, we got a short film for it. So you can go and watch like this. So I'm sure you would like to show this, Ms. Varsha, to your family and all your friends that there's a film on your name.
The next one tells you why does it come every year. I mean, we don't want to take your time here, but please go and watch that as well. You would love that. See, the point I'm trying to stress here is this knowledge of this land, these words, the language, every word has a meaning, and that meaning is connected to a functioning or a characteristic, some trait of the land and the civilization. I mean, not just land, I mean the civilization, the people, their practices. And the words may look very disconnected initially, but then it is the underlying thread of thought. And that is that Sanatana Dharma, the thread of thought which weaves all of this together. And so when Krishna says that Chatur Varna in Bhagavad Gita, what is the Chatur Varna? Why was it practiced? Why was it introduced? What is the underlying ethos of segregating a society into 4 different categories, and how do they supplement and complement each other? That is what needs to be understood. It was not just for, classifying them as tiers, just as layers that he didn't bring in incidentally. It has been there even before him. He just mentions it over there. But of course, when he says also the he is much larger he. So in that sense, I mean, so you have to take it in very many layers. But the fact, the need for this also has to be understood.
1 second here. The Chaturvarna that Krishna speaks about Bhagavad Gita is not caste system. Caste system was imposed by the colonial powers in 1870. Caste is a Portuguese word, casta. The Chaturvarna is a different concept that we have discussed in our book, Breaking the Myths About Society. That's available for all of you to read. 1/3 of the book deals only with the myth of caste system. It's there in our website. It's all of the books are called Autobiography of India, of which we have written 100+ volumes. One of the book is Breaking the Myths About Society. Breaking the Myths itself is 4 volumes. In that, 1 volume is about society. I think volume 2 or whatever it is. You can read all that. So every aspect you dealt with. So if you're welcome to the course to see all these layers, it's like onion. You have to slowly peel each layer to understand the quality of Sanatana Dharma. That's what it is.
So you can't just take any shloka or any verse in any scripture on its own. It's all integrated and tied beautifully together. And together they give a very holistic picture.
That's what we need to understand. So they self-validate themselves. That's the beauty of it. We don't need an outside bibliographer to validate it. That's very, again, a very colonial style. Okay. We should self-validate. That's the beauty of Indian knowledge. Okay. Can we go on to Miss Monica? She has her hand up, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm very thrilled to be here in this webinar. I'm the only European, an old colonist, but and I actually studied social anthropology, but not about India. I specialized on Japan. I was always told India is too complicated, but I'm so happy to have, I have already learned so much in this very first webinar here. And the thing, I like also your approach about the language and the words, because I have now started teaching languages. I started teaching Japanese at first. Now I also teach German. And this is basically also my approach and why I appeal that studying languages is always very necessary. And when I had my first Indian lady starting to study German with me, for me it was very important to know which was her mother tongue. So I am very much interested in the various languages in India. And of course, English is imposed through the colonial time. But for some regions, it's probably the only way to communicate with each other.
Yes. In fact, today, this will be interesting for you. I think some other Indians on this webinar today might be familiar. Today is a day, it's a festival day called Hanuman Jayanti in southern part of India. It is to celebrate birthday of Hanuman. And the color for Hanuman, his favorite color, the color associated with him is the color saffron, which is kesari. That is this kind of orange color. Mm-hmm. That is why we both are dressed in this orange color as well today. And
it's the color of the day.
We've made a very short film. It is on our YouTube channel. You could check it out, or we can even play it if there is time.
I have forwarded to Mrs. Malati. It's available. It's called Kesari. Today being Kesari Nandan's birthday, we have made this film. I think you can share it. If you have the WhatsApp number of all the people, you can share the film, or it's available. Yeah. Or Hema, I'll just show you where it is in our YouTube channel.
It is, the reason I'm talking about this, Ms. Monica, is it shows a very beautiful language connect as to how the word Kesar, Kesari, which means saffron, which means king. Actually, it means king. And from there, it gets on. It gets attributed to saffron, the king of spices, and how that goes forward. And you will be really surprised. I'll actually play it for you. It's very important.
It's a short film. It's just 4 minutes.
Just a moment.
What I'll do is I'll leave the link to that video in the chat.
Yeah.
So we can go to the next question that I received over email. So
just one point. Since she mentioned Japan, Mrs. Monica mentioned about Japan. We have written a book called Indo-Japan, a Connector Millenia. And since you mentioned about languages, there's also 4 films are made on Japan, India-Japan connection. If you go to the Bharath.online website, in the books, you'll find a book called Indo-Japan, a Connector Millenia. I'll just show it to you briefly, then you can browse through it later.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. I never suspected.
Yeah, because the connection between these 2 civilizations go back millions. So we'll just show you, if you go down, see, look at this. Can you see this image?
So this is there. You can have a look at it anytime.
Later.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So thank you very much. That's very, very interesting.
Incidentally, the German word Kaiser
Yes.
Comes from this Kesari. That is what we were wanting to show you, the path of this word. But
You can watch-
urge you to watch it later.
watch the
because,
film.
Yes. So the word Kesari is Hindi.
Sanskrit.
It's Sanskrit. Okay. I need to get all those languages sorted.
You're welcome to our course. We'll deal with all these layers.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
And
you
the
very
Roman-
much.
And the Roman word Caesar also comes from Kesari, because he is also king. So Caesar, Kaiser, all that comes from Kesari.
Okay.
It's there in the film for you to watch. It's also there in our book, Grand Bharath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Martin.
much.
Next question, please.
Yeah. So Usha Srinivasan, I'm not sure if she's there in the. Is she there? Usha Srinivasan, are you there in the? No. So Saroj Bala, are you there?
You can state the questions.
Okay, Saroj Bala has an interesting question, which is any insight into what makes a happy and satisfying retirement years?
Okay.
Actually, if you just follow the Varnashrama, in Varnashram, it's not just caste, like we were saying. It is Varna Jati Ashrama. And in that ashrama lies the answer for satisfying not just retirement, but satisfying every phase of life.
That is what was killed during the colonial times.
So when everything got flattened as a single hierarchical, that to a vertical hierarchical caste system, all of these connotations of how a society should be organized, should function, so that everybody is satisfied at every stage of their life, be whatever they may be doing, that gets lost.
So what was horizontal was made vertical, actually. It was a horizontal system. The Varnashrama was horizontal. It was made vertical by the colonial powers. So that's what changed the whole thing. The perspective changed it. Okay, next question, please.
Yeah.
Before we end for the day.
Yeah, Usha Srinivasan asks how to regain the knowledge available in all these literatures. You know, some were not even recorded, but only transferred orally for several reasons. We have only very few.
No, transferred orally is only Veda. Because Veda alone was meant to be transferred orally and not written. All other, see, we told you 22 varieties of historical records, including Itihasa, Purana, Upanishads, Smriti, everything. All of them were recorded and written. Documentation is available. Only Shruti, which is Veda, because the word Shruti means to hear. Only Shruti is to be oral. And there's a method called Ashtavikriti through which they were transmitted. Okay, so so let's not mix Shruti with Smriti. Smriti is all that can be written and noted down. And Shruti is alone remember. Okay? Listened.
Oral and oral.
Okay, so that's what we showed you in the chart. If those who want to go back to the chart, you can see it later. And it's there in our book. Breaking the Myths About Society has this full chapter on this point.
So there's one of the myths that everything in knowledge of India is just oral. It was not everything was oral. Only the Veda, for a specific purpose, they were oral. There was a very well-defined, well-developed writing system from many millennia ago. Writing system in terms of the script, the lipi, first and foremost, the language was well developed, which is why it was called Sanskrit. Today we end up calling it Sanskrit, but Sanskrit it means that which is well developed, well refined. Some skrit, I mean, some and krit means to be, to have been done, and some means well done.
A job well done is Sanskrit. But Sanskrit, as it's called in Europe and now also in India, means sans means without. So the sans, it's become without. What was originally called a job well done has become without, because by calling it sans.
Okay, so the language was well developed. This writing lipi script was quite well developed. There were various media in which it was written well. So everything existed at the same time. So there are layers and layers of such myths and mindset change we have to first get into. Then that will clear up the scene for us, and we will be able to go to the right kind of source of information that we want. We will know where to go to.
All this is there, available in all the Bharatyan books, films, articles, videos, and all that. And also, when you interact with us in these courses, you'll get to them. So welcome. We're not marketing the courses for the sake of anything. Just that we're saying that these are available for you in these mediums and formats to use. The whole plethora is available. The bouquet is available. And in the courses, we get to interact with you on each of these points. It's all very open courses where it's not that we come and give a lecture for 45 minutes and go away. No, it's a lot of interaction happens in our courses. So welcome for them, where we look at each layer. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Malti.
Thank you. So maybe Dr. Munikoti can take up this question, having learned the Upanishads and some Vedas. Narayanan Anantasayanam asks, which came first, Vedas or Upanishad?
Actually, in Vedas, you have the 4 parts, and Upanishad is the last part. You have Brahmana, Samhita, Aranyaka, and then you have Upanishads. So the Vedas are divided into, I think I showed in that chart. So that is, as Mr. Dr. Hari was saying, that it is from Shri, what people have heard and the saints have heard, and it comes under that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There's a question from Sidhu. He says, maybe, sorry, this is not the correct platform, but nevertheless, he says, after he watched many videos, movies, including Mahabharata, but still asking some basic questions. How do you believe God is there? Did you see God? Who's the father of God and his father, and so on? Did you see God? If I pray God, he will come. Please let's how we answer basic questions and what needs to follow. After watching several Indian videos, movies, I still not believe. Thank you so much.
Sidhu, thank you for asking this wonderful, basic, fundamental and pertinent question. The fundamental difference between Brahmic religions is Brahma, Brahmic religions, and the Abrahamic religions, Abrahma, Abrahamic religions, is that in all the Abrahamic thought, God is outside. Outside earth, outside creation, outside sun, outside the universe. He creates everything from outside. Where he is outside is a different question. That's a theological question. We're not getting into it. Whereas in all the Brahmic religions, be it Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sikh, all Buddhism, Taoism, all of them put together, Jainism, all put together, the divinity resides within. He resides within the universe. He resides within the sun. He resides within the earth. He, she, there's no gender there. Both genders are there. Or all the genders, all the gender, or the rainbow of genders are there. All of that reside within each one, including within you. So you should see that God is within you. That's a fundamental factor. So don't look for him outside. Yes. So incidentally, on this aspect, we have made a film called Creation Srishti Vijnana. There are 30 films we have made on the subject. It's available as a separate playlist link in our Bharath.online website. Go and visit it. You can see the 30 films. There's also a book called Creation that we've written. It's available in our website for you to read. It's available. The book is written in multiple languages. Again, available. It's been written in English, Kannada, Tamil, few other like Hindi, other languages. You can check them all out. And this is a subject we deal for a couple of days in our course, Exploring Hinduism. So again, welcome there for it. Wherein we can look at the layers, but to answer your vast question in 2 minutes, I think I've done it very briefly and fast. Okay, then it's all within, not without. It's not sans, but it is some within. That's a fundamental difference. So if you're looking outside, you're looking elsewhere. You need to look inside. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sidhu, for asking this wonderful fundamental question. Thank you. Any more questions, Mrs. Malti?
I don't see any other questions. Nobody has raised their hand. People are thankful. I also get questions. I mean, I also get a review saying that the session was very good. So I'll ask for one last time if there are any other questions. We will take it. Otherwise, I think we can proceed with the vote of thanks. Any other question?
We'd like to thank Mrs. Malti for really organizing this program so well and getting about all your friends in different parts of Europe together. It's nice. We look forward to interacting with all of you again and again, multiple times as we go along. And let this be start of our interactions though online. Okay, look forward to seeing you in different forums. Go through our website as well as welcome for our courses. So the idea is to interact with you more. That's all. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you once again. I think we are running short of time. I do understand that you have another webinar to attend. In case some of you are interested in attending this webinar, they did talk about a course that they are doing for the Hindu University of America, which is titled the Hindu Contributions to the World. So if any of you is interested in knowing a little bit more about this course, you can visit the Bharath.online website where they have a link to this webinar. Am I right, Dr. Hari?
It is there. You could share the link now, which I've shared to you.
Yes.
It's starting in the 20 minutes from exactly the webinar. Yeah. That's another 1.5 hour webinar starting in 20 minutes exactly.
Yeah.
It's under the Hindu University America.
Yes.
So you're welcome there. It will be a follow-up of what we've spoken here. We're going to continue on there.
Exactly. So more details about this specific course is what they're going to share there. And it would be wonderful if one or I know some of you, if you're interested, can join that course. I'm going to share the link to that course in the chat window. So once I do that, I think I will proceed with the... Yeah, so people have said that it was a very insightful and informative, interesting session. I have learned so much. So great. It was also very, very interesting and informative. And I also like the interactive way in which the sessions were conducted. A lot of information gained, I think, starting from the very basic and the fundamental question that Mr. Sidhu asked, to a slightly complicated question about language from Monica. I'm very thankful to Monica for immediately accepting to attend this webinar today. We just started talking about Indian culture and I said, okay, please join this. It's going to be very interesting for you. I hope she enjoyed the session. I did. I have been talking to Dr. Hari now for almost a year, and every time it's been, some learning or the other. And I was glad that he, that the couple immediately accepted my invitation to be present here today, in spite of being the New Year weekend. I particularly enjoyed your point about the steps to sustainable success. Sustainable is a buzzword these days, and a study of the Hindu civilization or a study of the Indian knowledge systems is going to be a stepping stone to sustained success. Why? It's going to provide the confidence, the dare, the direction, and the distinction needed to succeed in that future. So I'm really proud that we have done something good for us to continue through the millennia. And I'm grateful for, having been born there. So thank you for that thing. And also, like Dr. Vijayendra said, it's the meaning given by Sri Aurobindo for Sanatana Dharma is so pertinent even today. Even though he was by birth he was a French man, he moved to India and he completely adapted and adopted to the Sanatana Dharmic ways of living. And there's so much going. There's so much more that he has spoken about. At one stage, I think he completely became very spiritual, and he's written a lot of books. and they are now celebrating the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, and a chair has been appointed for which our Prime Minister Modi is the president of the chair. So yeah, and I particularly like the point that Dr. Munukoti mentioned about the factors that influence the individual's identity by following Sanatana Dharma. It's going to, whether it's the interaction with the society or it's the assimilation of values, cultures, or traditions in a foreign environment, staying rooted or staying connected to your roots is definitely going to help you, because it's going to help you understand who you are. Once you understand who you are, it's very easy to understand the society that in which you're living, and therefore you'll be able to contribute meaningfully to the society. So that was a very valid point from Dr. Munakoti, and once again I thank the three of you, the speakers, Dr. Vijayendra Munakoti, Dr. Hema Hari, Dr. DK Hari, all three of you for taking this very meaningful time out from your very hectic schedules and being there with us today talking about the Indian knowledge systems. There are just two more comments in the chat, if you allow me to read. It's like, again, the same thing. It was a wonderful session and very thought-provoking session. Thank you, Subhashini, for this. I have left the link to the webinar that's going to happen in the next 15 minutes by Dr. Hema Hari and Dr. DK Hari. So I will not hold them back any longer. Thank you so much, and thank you, audience, also to each one of you. I do not wish to call out the names individually, some of them friends, some of them to be friends. Thank you all for joining us and making this session, a lively one. Thank you very much.